Hey, hey, hey.
Hey, Julie.
Hey, hey. I'm feeling perky on 2 hours of sleep. How you doing?
I also didn't sleep very well last night, but more than 2 hours. So
All
maybe
right.
there's something going on.
It's the energy. All right. So speaking of energy, we're going to talk a little bit about energy today. Surprise. And what I've noticed with, loved ones, clients, and then I've heard some other practitioners saying the same thing. And when you hear that, you're like, okay, this isn't just me and my little circle, which is, I'm hearing a lot of people bring up like childhood stuff, like, and then this happened. There's a lot of processing of old pain and old injuries. And it's, people do that. That's normal. That's what we do as we heal. But to see it in people that are not related, which with such power and magnitude and intensity, that it's kind of leveling people emotionally, and not, I don't mean balancing, I mean, whoa. Um, so, and then I've also noticed, which is heartbreaking, an uptick in just personally hearing about people who are choosing to end their own lives. I'm like, what? What it? So to me, that would again kind of support this. This is a purely a hypothesis that all of these traumatic or denser energies are coming to us and through us right now to be alchemized or healed or transformed or released. So
Yeah.
that's kind of an intro to where we're going.
Which is so hard sometimes to see when you're smack dab right in the middle of it. And so for anyone who's listening, if you're going through maybe it feels like old stuff, or it's always a good indication for me when I'm like, ugh, this again. If you're finding yourself being like, God, this again, this old argument, these old feelings, that is always a sign. And Julie, just from you sharing all of this super powerful quantum information that we're going to talk a little bit about today, I am at least able to be aware that, okay, these old layers are coming up with the opportunity of being healed, being redirected, reshaped. But it's really fucking hard when your emotions are pulling you down, when your thoughts are running crazy, when your environment's chaotic. So love to anyone who's going through kind of this, it feels like a collective thing that we're working with right now.
It sure does. All right. So before we jump into this crazy thing that happened, the concept that time is a tool for learning in our 3D plane of existence. Okay. So, this time space continuum. So I don't want to get all overwhelming. But oh, this movie, Everything Everywhere All at Once. My sister, who is kind of dipping her toe into some of these, ideas, kind of started there and watched it and was like, okay, I kind of get how the idea that there is no past, there is no future, it's all occurring everywhere at one time. And it's just simply where we exactly, right, have our point of attention. So when I first started getting messages about this, my guides were so sweet. They'd explain it and say, do you understand? And I'm like, no, not at all.
Yeah.
And I mean, they tried a couple different ways, and I'm like, yep, still not getting it. And so they explained it to me. They showed me a record, like the old record that you used to put on the record player. And they said, on this record is every note, is every lyric. It's all right there. And it's a spiral, like our existence is actually a spiral, it's not linear. And wherever you place the needle or your point of attention, that's what you hear. That's what you experience. But you could just as easily move it over here or over there. And we would call that going backwards in time or looking into the future. But it's all everywhere all at once, just where we are in this dimension. Some people have an ability to go to other places. They can kind of time travel, astral travel, get messages. And that seems to be increasing in our species. But anyway, so that's the concept that you, there's more than one of you, which again, kind of crazy. And you're having multiple experiences in all of these different timelines. Okay.
And probably infinite expressions of you happening all at the same time. So just even before you jump in, just a quick little like practical way that I play with this sometimes is, if this is all true, then there is a version of me out there that is like fully embodied, fully ascended, one with source in a way that maybe I'm not experiencing right now in this denser earth body. So I talk to that being, I talk to that Claire, and we call that sometimes our higher selves. But that is me guiding me.
Right.
So that may be a little strange or weird, but when we talk about like our guides or our guide team, like your higher self is part of your guide team. And sometimes I'll even get a message from who I know is future Claire in this incarnation. And I'll be like, thank you so much. I send messages to past Claire in this incarnation. Like, hang in there, you're going to be okay. Even when I'm just kind of working through past memories and pain, I speak to earlier Claire from my state now. So that's just something that kind of,
And that's totally powerful too. I mean, there are therapeutic approaches called internal family systems, that is what you're doing basically. The more intact Claire is speaking to the little girl Claire who went through all kinds of stuff. Okay, so also imagine the center of the record is basically, let's just call it God, or 0 point, contains everything. From that point, energy bursts out, and you are a spark of the divine. So even if you want to go big bangy on this, bam, you cross every little spiral on that record, which is a dimension. Okay. So because of quantum entanglement, once you pass through there, there's a you there. There's a you on the next spiral on the record, the next one, the next one, the next one, the next one, the next one. Right? All right. So what's happening from my understanding is we are going to have multi-dimensional experiences. So we would have a third dimensional experience. Fourth dimensional would be our emotions and our dream time. And part of the mastery of your emotions, when you become a master of the fourth dimension, you don't get pulled down by your emotions. You're aware, I'm feeling this. Oh, I'm experiencing sadness right now, but it doesn't consume you and take you down in your whole day. When you are able to identify some of that which is occurring in your dreams, maybe even lucid dreaming, right? Where you're able to shape your dream, be aware in your dream, I'm dreaming. I don't like the way this is going to go, so I'm going to change it, which you can do that because I do that. That's just, and then you can apply that to your life of, this is just actually really also a dream that seems really freaking real, but I can change it. But the mastery of the fourth dimension will lead to accessing what we experience as fifth dimensional gifts, be it channeling or spontaneous healing, bilocation. I know of this girl, and her name is Lyrica, and we should probably post her book on here. She is autistic, and her mother, Gail, just worked with her, in her special way. And she now can literally move objects with her mind. It's crazy. And I have a friend who knows them. I mean, she's seen this. So this isn't just, oh, this is just some book we're reading about. It's like, no, this is happening. So, this is someone special who's able to really play in that fifth dimension. So
Mhm.
it's common. It's common if you're interested. If you're interested in that, it's common. You don't have to do that. You can go a different route. Okay. So
So Julie had a recent experience that she's going to tell us about where she's playing with some multi dimensions and my jaw dropped. So Julie, what
okay. So
happened?
I'm gonna start with I won't. There's some backstory to me having an awareness that old Julies and versions of things that have happened in my life were coming back to me in very similar presentations.
Like a cycle, but in a different way.
A different way. It involved some of the same elements, like a sign on the door, do not enter, a black Porsche trying to run me off the road, some similar things that had happened 25 years ago. And what had happened 25 years ago, I wasn't listening to my intuition. I wasn't honoring myself. And I ended up in a very painful experience that was a timeline. Now I'm on this timeline, right? For many, many years of my life I was healing from this timeline. Here we are in this place and time and space, and Julie's more healed now. And so the remnants, that Julie that's out there carrying the pain and on that timeline, it's like Julie's going to get on a new time. Julie's on a new timeline right now from this more intact, integrated toroidal field of me. I magnetize that old timeline, and it presents in a similar way, but the Porsche doesn't run me off the road. I trust my instincts this time. And then when I had an awareness, I was like, oh my God, this is so similar. It was on the exact same day. Okay. So this event had happened when I was 17 or 18, eight, I don't remember exactly, but it was the exact same day. And I knew that because it was the day after Easter Sunday, and I did all this stuff. Yeah. And I was like, oh my God. So literally I was like, all right, weird. So I started getting messages about that. And my guide said, 0 point is you. So all the energy of the me's everywhere has to come through me and blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool. Great. No big deal. All right. So, and then about 2 weeks ago, so this happened, I don't know, in April. And I told Claire and blah, blah, blah. About 2 weeks ago, I was listening to another channel that I listen to sometimes, and she said the exact same thing. She was like, 0 point is you, all these different versions of you that need to like release the pain are going to come through you now, which would explain why everybody's getting so sad and overwhelmed and feeling like they want to kill themselves. If there's no understanding that all these versions of you are now coming into you, into this field for healing, people would be overwhelmed. They'd be like, what the hell's happening? Additionally, we are on a planet. So Earth is surrounded by a new photonic belt right now. I mean, this happens every like 26,500 years, where we are in higher vibratory light that assists us. So time is right for this to occur. All right. So I
And
heard,
and if I could just jump in real quick,
yeah,
that that kind of calling all these disembodied parts of ourselves home, that's really like the ultimate integration of all of our forms. And
yeah.
that is the concept of like returning home to yourself. And if you didn't understand the 0 point stuff, we're going to talk about that in more detail after her story. So just hang tight.
Okay. So fast forward, it's right after I had heard this woman say the exact same thing, the message I got. She said, things are going to get really weird. I mean, really weird. She woke up with this, like almost like a burn mark on her forehead. And she was like, yeah, no, I don't drink. I wasn't out partying. It was like an injury from a different her was processing through her body. So I was like, okay, yeah, 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 totally get it. All right, here's the weird story. If the other stuff wasn't weird enough for you. Okay, so my son had a fire. He's okay, blah, blah, blah. He has had to move several times because of this fire. There was asbestos, doesn't matter. Additionally, his sister was living with her boyfriend and some stuff didn't go as planned. And he helped her out in this very, very challenging situation. And I was like so shocked because my son has autism and he's very overwhelmed since COVID. Doesn't leave his house much. He's been very, very challenged. And it was like, what the hell? How did he do this? How did he manage this in the middle of the night? I mean, there was a lot of intensity to this. And she called me and her dad, and for whatever reason, she can break through my phone call, but it didn't wake me, it didn't ring. So anyway, I was kind of like so shocked at this version of my son, who I was like, who the F knew? Great, this is wonderful. So things continue to be very challenging because he has, they're living now in the same place, trying to figure all this stuff out. And he has had this incredible patience. And it's like, wow, this is crazy. All right. Now we get to the part, my phone rings 4 days ago, 5 days ago. And I'm like, oh, hey, buddy, what's going on? And he's like, oh, I just finished playing chess upstairs and, just came downstairs and I had literally just kind of energetically cleared some stuff out of my home, physically cleared some stuff out of my home that I was like, it's a new chapter for me. Like I can't live like this anymore. And so I was doing that right before he called me, and I literally, my hands were kind of dirty from doing this energy work and this physical work. So I'm literally washing my hands of this dirt and this energy, and and that's when he calls. I dry up, my finger to open my phone because my hand's wet. And he's saying, "Hey, mom, just came from playing chess." Da, 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 da. I'm like, "Okay, da, da, da. You're gonna eat dinner, great." He tells me a story about something that happened the day before that I was like, "Oh my god, wow." And then I said, all of a sudden, my right eye starts getting crazy. I don't know why. My contacts start shifting. I can't see. My eye starts burning. And I'm like, honey, I gotta go. I gotta go. Something's wrong with my eye. I gotta dry my hand off and try and get this out. He says, okay, can you send me $7? And I'm like, I don't know. Just let me deal with this. Because, he's asking for money kind of often. So I get the contact out, whatever, fine. And I'm like, just send him $7. Like the kid has been doing so much. What $7? So he did send him $7. My phone rings right after I send him the $7. Pick up the phone. I'm like, I guess he's calling to say thank you. Usually, anyway. Hey, Patrick. He's like, hey, mom, what's going on? I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, he said, well, I just finished playing chess with the guy upstairs. And I'm like, I know, you just told me that. He's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, what am I talking about? What are you talking about? I just sent you the $7. He's like, why the fuck do you send me $7? Like, what do I need $7 for? I'm like, what? What? He's like, mom, have you been drinking? I'm like, no, I haven't been drinking. Have you been smoking weed? Like, what? I'm like, Patrick, we just had an entire conversation. He's like, mom, I have not talked to you. I literally just walked in the door. So I get my phone and I'm like, I'm going to screenshot it. So I pull it up and I'm like, he called me at exactly 7 o'clock. We were on the phone for 7 minutes and he asked for $7. I was like, what is happening? So I screenshot it and send it to him. And he's like, what the fuck, mom? Well, he screenshots his phone. He's like 2:53. That's the last time I talked to you on my phone. That's the last time I've spoken to you. I said, you told me this. You told me this story about what happened. And he's like, well, all that is true. That did happen. That story. And he's autistic, so he has kind of like this lyrica. He's more tapped into other realms and things like that. And he's like, what the fuck? We're having a time. The dimensions are crossing, mom. He was freaked out. And he's like, why would I have even asked you for $7? He's like, that doesn't even make any sense. He's like, I would ask you for 40 or I'd ask for 7. And so he's like, oh no, there's obviously a Patrick somewhere who needs $7. The wrong Patrick got the $7, mom. He was very worried about this. And I was just like, I mean, shook to my core, like shook, because I was like, well, that would explain this new Patrick who's been way more like, he's been super amazing. That I'm like, who is this person? So I don't really know exactly what happened, but I was interfacing with 2 Patricks within, I don't know, 5 minutes of each other. So that was crazy. Then the very next day, I'm going on a walk, my regular walk, and there's some leaves on the ground. There's this little pile. There's like a little, brownish one, a little yellow one, and a little one that's red. And then I'm like, what is this? I kid you not, there is a gold leaf. Not a plastic leaf that's been sprayed gold, no, it is this translucent gold leaf. And I was like, I mean, I took a picture. If anyone wants to see it, we can post it. But I was like, what is happening? So I, of course, tell my son, because the next day we're like, he's like, well, that makes sense. I mean, the dimensions clearly are crossing right now. And I was like, just started then using my imagination, like, oh, well, if we're in another dimension where it's not so dense, I guess the leaves would be different and maybe they would be golden. And my niece said something. She was like, yeah, that expression, money doesn't grow on trees. She's like, maybe gold really does grow on trees.
That would be amazing.
So that
I would go to that dimension.
yeah. So that was the crazy thing that happened that now Claire's gonna make some perfect sense of.
No, I'm definitely not. I'm gonna let the mystery simmer. But then just to kind of add another piece onto that, Julie calls me that night we talked. And I know maybe you've heard she and I talk about this system called the gene keys. And at a very basic level, it's similar to astrology, but it's based on different ancient systems of numerology. And so there is a specific gene key that's transiting every 6 days throughout the calendar year. And there's 64 gene keys, so it rotates. Well, that very night, I'm in a Gene Keys group where we talk about, all the things we're learning. And the 7th gene key was transiting that day. So that is the energy literally woven through the earth that is creating any kind of influence or whatever. And that night we had this powerful discussion about it. And I was like, oh, did you say sevens? I was like, well, the 7 keeps coming up. So numerology, Julie, you know numerology better than I do. What is the 7?
7 goes deep. So 7 goes deep. So spirituality, it's very a spiritual number. Most people would consider a spiritual number. It's a number of transformation.
Yeah, isn't it Christ consciousness?
Yeah, transformation, transfiguration. It's a number of like gathering information. It's a number of spiritual and like esoteric wisdom. So, I mean, what really clicks on there is the gathering, right? This gathering of information, because pain and our energy bodies, that is information. So it's this pulling together of information. Also, it bears mentioning that this occurred on 8/8, which was the peak day of what's known as the Lionsgate portal, which energetically extends from, I believe, July 26th to the 11th or 12th of August. And in Egypt, the pyramid is in perfect alignment with Sirius, the sun, Sirius, and Orion. And so they harnessed in Egypt, they knew about this potent portal of energy that would pour into Earth at that time. So some people will say, oh, the veil is thin during a portal. The veil is thin means that, yeah, we can more easily step into these different dimensions during these times. So super noteworthy that it happened on the peak day of Lionsgate portal.
I didn't think about that. Yeah. So interesting news. Very interesting story. We house in our bodies unlimited energy. And because of that, that is what's magnetizing our own bodies to draw all these other fractal pieces of ourselves home. And we call this the 0 point or the toroidal field. So I would like to read a little excerpt from The Field by Lynn McTaggart. She is a journalist, so she does not have any scientific background, but she's a journalist who did all this research and has talked to several highly regarded physicists, those studying the quantum field, those actively experimenting with these theories. And I think she puts it in words that are fairly easy for the common folk to understand quantum physics. So I'm just going to read a little excerpt that kind of describes what the 0 point is. So quantum physics deals at the tiniest, like smaller than molecule level of matter. So she says, there's one giant reservoir of energy we haven't talked about. Every quantum physicist is well aware of the 0 point field. Quantum mechanics has demonstrated that there is no such thing as a vacuum or nothingness. What we tend to think of as a sheer void, if all of space were emptied of matter and energy, and you examined even the space between the stars, is, in subatomic terms, a hive of activity. So scientists have tried reducing matter down as much as possible, creating the vacuum, sucking matter out. And even then, there is still the tiniest pieces of matter somewhat vibrating, which then creates this field known as the quantum field that is connected throughout all creation, all time and space.
Like a web. It's like a web of information that is surrounding us, and we can't see it, but it's there. The World Wide Web. They didn't pick that name on accident, folks.
That's right. The uncertainty principle, developed by Werner Heisenberg, one of the chief architects of quantum theory, implies that no particle ever stays completely at rest, but is constantly in motion due to a ground state field of energy constantly interacting with all subatomic matter. It means that the basic substructure of the universe is a sea of quantum fields that cannot be eliminated by any known law of physics. 0 point energy is the energy present in the emptiest state of space at the lowest possible energy, out of which no more energy could be removed. The closest that motion of some subatomic matter ever gets to zero. So then they go on to say that, like, when physicists and physicists do their experiments, there's actually like a formula that they have to include in their calculations to account for the 0 point field, because it's not actually zero. It's just slightly off, and it throws off all their experiments if they don't account for it. The 0 point field might just represent some vast, unharnessed energy source. If you could just tap into this, and this is what the scientist says, you could possibly power spaceships.
Okay, first of all, I love that. And I also love that you led by saying most people can understand that. Because sometimes I say to you, I don't know. And I'm not, please, I'm not, that's some dense information.
Yes.
So I'm gonna dumb it down even more.
Please.
Everything around us that we cannot see, like it's teeming with particles of potentiality, unmanifested potential. When we are able to become one with the so-called field, right? And anyway, we can shape that matter. We can create from that matter. We can manipulate this unrecognized ingredients for anything we want. It's all there. It can become anything. And can I tell my mushroom story?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Just so that people can kind of get. And Joe Dispenza, who he's not my guy, but some people think Joe Dispenza is like the bomb.com. He talks about that, being able to go into the field and, access that energy. Anyway, so I was trying using psychedelic mushrooms. Actually, I'm a certified guide, so I will take individuals, and I'm not on mushrooms when I do this, and work with them through healing and blah, blah, blah. So long story short, though, sometimes if I have a new source of where I'm getting these mushrooms, super legit company, by the way, where it is legal, I want to try what this is going, this plant medicine that I'm going to be using in a healing ceremony with the client. So that being said, I tried this mushroom, and I was in the woods, and I started to like dissolve, like the me that identifies as me, my experience of my body, and my ability to anchor in reality started going away in a very different way than I had experienced before. And I started getting kind of nauseous. And I heard my guides say, of course, this doesn't feel normal or natural to you. You've never felt this before. And it is a little, destabilizing. But I knew I was dissolving into the field. I became one with the field. That's all I know. I was a part of everything. I was in the everything. And it was a little trippy. But then I had this awareness that I was with two other people. And in this heightened clairvoyant state or awareness, I knew that I was needed. I was needed back out of the woods. And so I'm like, okay. And I left the woods, and indeed I was needed. But when I was walking back, I kind of said, what is going on? Like, why is this experience so different than what I'd ever had before? And they were explaining to me that I had taken a different strain. It was a different strain of a psychedelic, and it produced different different sensations, experiences. So I said out loud, I just want, and I think I said, I just want a penis mushroom. And there's this psychedelic called penis envy. And I was kind of like, this is really freaking trippy. I said, I just want a penis mushroom. I'm now at with another person I came with, literally, and we've got to post this picture. Right when I spoke it, in between my feet, okay, in between my feet on gravel rocks, a penis mushroom grows up out of the ground like about this big. And I'm like taking a picture and I'm saying to my friends, like, oh my God. And I was in the field for that brief period of time. And I don't know how that happened, but I do know that is possible because it occurred. Just like my two sons calling me, crazy stuff occurs. And when it happens, you can't deny that it's real. And the people was with, they were like, what the fuck? And the next day was so funny because I said, I'm back to me. And I was going to go foraging for like reishi, turkey tail, lion's mane. And a friend who I was with was like, why are you going to go do that? I'm like, what are you talking about? Because I like these mushrooms. She's like, no, you can just make them now. She was dead serious. I was like, you know what? I have not mastered that. I'm pretty sure that was a fucking fluke, but it did occur. So that's the field.
Crazy. And I just think about, okay, we've talked about this in past episodes. If we truly believe that we are fractals of source, of the creator, then we ourselves have such powerful creative energy. And even going back to last episode where we talked about sex magic, like using the power cultivated from the base of our spine to create, it makes sense to me that once you were connected and plugged in, and that all you had to do, just like the Bible says, is speak something into existence, and you're drawing on that infinite energy source in the quantum field. It sounds magical as fuck, but actually quantum physics is getting closer and closer and closer to just making this science, not a theory, right?
Okay, and let's take it a step further because it wouldn't be an episode where I didn't pull out a little tinfoil hat. All right, why, if we had access to this knowledge and we had access to this information and we were taught how to reach these states of energetic equanimity within ourselves, and we could tap into this for creation, what the actual, right, think of how that would change the way our world operates. And you can use that quantum energy, you can use that to heal yourself. And again, I have many examples of that. And you can use that energy to heal. So it's like, well, of course we're not hearing about this. Of course we're not learning about this because there's not any money to be made.
Right.
No money to be made.
And even a little more conspiratorial, Nikola Tesla discovered this field of endless energy. And think about the wars that are fought over energy resources. Think about the power that is, people are manipulated, and just the economy is manipulated in that way. And this brilliant scientist comes along and is like, hey, everyone, there's free energy just out of the earth. They're not going to let him live. No way. So you listener, me, Julie, we have access to that energy in our bodies, which is actually at our navel point. So I don't know if you've seen the toroidal field. It looks kind of like a donut. like there's energy coming up from the center and then circling back around. It kind of looks like an infinity symbol, but it's like a 3D donut. All right.
It's
So the energy,
all of string. It's almost like, the old spool of string. If you were standing inside the spool of string and all the strings had space, you know how that string wraps like that?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Right, right.
Yeah.
So that toroidal field, first of all, the Earth's toroidal field, Earth's 0 point is the core. And so all of that energy, and this is the concept, is that as we go within, as we cultivate our inner energy, that amplifies the energy going out. So it's creating this movement or this movement throughout our actual body.
Right. And if you think of the average human biofield extends about 6 feet, that's average. But the stronger, the more magnetic we become in our core, that field is stronger and extends further and wide. We have
Yes. And
our power to influence that which is invisible around us because our field is now a part of so much more.
and when we take psychedelics or other conscious altering substances, it allows us. So this field, and this is from some of Julie's channeling when we were together in Exuma, which was really fun. Where she's receiving this information and she's sharing it with me, and we're both just like, oh my God, what? Just like secrets of the universe here. But as our toroidal field charges and then moves outward, that's what creates different bandwidths or frequencies or dimensions. So something like psilocybin allows us to kind of hop dimensions in that way. And so then other experiences, other realities are accessible to us then.
And to help people understand a little bit as well, our brains, if you think of our brains, basically they've got these highways and these pathways that we go down. Imagine you go skiing and all the people that have gone ahead of you, there's kind of just, you can see all the tracks that you're just going to kind of default go down, right? Our brain is like that. So we kind of use certain parts of it in these habituated ways, which it's a default network that then is developed in our brain based on the tasks, the way we think, how we accomplish things in this world. When you take psilocybin, it lights up parts of your brain that you haven't used. And so it would be like fresh powder has been laid down on the slopes, and you're free to explore and access all, because there's not these ruts where you always go. And so those parts of so it's not to say you're altering your brain, you're accessing parts of your brain that have been dormant because they have not been used or accessed in this lifetime. And once you start, even if you microdose, or you have to do this in a way, you don't just start popping mushrooms, but if you do this very intentionally, it starts to rebuild and activate those dormant networks inside of yourself. And so you're not tripping, you're starting to turn parts of your brain online, which is,
Yeah, Julie, you want to take this moment to kind of share how you guide people in these journeys?
yeah. So generally I speak with them either in person if they're in town. I do travel out of town, but I have 2 phone calls just to people who want to do this. Generally there's something they're stuck with, whether they can't seem to heal from childhood stuff, or they don't know a decision about a relationship, just they're feeling stuck. So I create a little safety just by talking and exploring that. And then we work together on setting an intention. The intention needs to be very specific, one or two sentences. And then the day of the journey, there's some ceremonial things that we do. I listen to my guides beforehand and create playlists that somehow it's crazy because they're like they'll start crying on the first song. It's like, oh, this song was played, and it's like, oh well, that's exactly how that works. Then I also do some tarot before we go in and kind of do a very sacred ceremony, and then a spiritual you could take 1.5 grams up to 3.5 grams, which would be called a hero's journey. You kind of, but I take, kind of ask them, are you wanting just kind of a first time experience, or are you really wanting to go all the way here? I have the Reiki table and my crystal bowls, and I'm just sort of tuned into what might they need in this moment. And I'm led by the guides. Often there's a fire, so we can be by the fire. Some ginger tea in case they get nauseous. And then when I'm aware that they're in the journey, everyone except for one person has asked me to have a recording of what they're saying. So I'm kind of nurturing, I'm listening, but I'm also getting information about what they need and how I can sometimes see what they're seeing. And so then I understand what's happening. Additionally, I will get messages while they're in the journey. So I'll write all the messages down. And it's crazy when it's just crazy how they overlap. It's like, how does this even work? And then, it usually lasts anywhere between 4 and 8 hours. And then the person kind of comes back and, it's a little food if they want a little food, a little just nurturing. I do Reiki sometimes while they're in the journey. That's when the light language started too, which is very interesting. And afterwards, I take the next day, at least half of the day, or a phone session if that's what they would prefer, to integrate, talk about what they experienced. And it's been such an honor to be a part of people's healing in this way. It's actually my favorite thing that I've ever been able to do and like call a job, because it's so amazing. And some feedback that I've gotten from one executive was it was like 10 years of therapy. 10 years of therapy. And I'm like, wow. And it's been in my opinion, I've worked with people sometimes weekly for a couple of years. And it doesn't hold a candle. It just doesn't. I mean, it doesn't, because we can heal things. I can get messages from my guides about what would help them to heal, maybe what, natural practices to improve some health conditions, things like that, which is all very beneficial. But until someone is able to access new pathways in their brain, it's very difficult to become unstuck.
Well, I have also experienced kind of a less official mushroom journey with Julie when we were in the Bahamas together, and it was life changing and a beautiful experience. And I know that you have really helped a lot of people just unlock stuff that then can start flowing. So Julie will be coming to North Carolina for my NC Peeps in October. So if you're interested in doing a journey with her, just reach out.
Yeah, that'd be great. It would be great. And I just want to say I am merely a shepherd. Um, it is plant medicine. It is your own brain and your own higher self. I think I'm a lovely, wonderful shepherd, but all praise and credit to your own most higher self and the mushroom.
Well, if we could leave listeners with one kind of practical piece today, this comes from the Magdalene manuscript that we shared with everyone last episode. And this is an ancient alchemical practice. It's very simple. Because we know that the center of our power comes from our belly button, you can just sit outside in the sun. If you can get your bare belly to the sun, that's even better. And you can put a hand on your belly button. You can just kind of close your eyes down, bring your awareness to your belly button, and just chant Ra, R-A, Ra, Ra, over and over. And even saying that, I feel Ra, like it comes from the gut.
Well, rah, rah, right? When you're cheering someone on, that's energy. And Ra is one of the names for the sun god. And if you think of our solar plexus is yellow, it's the sun. It is with that vibration activating that solar energy center.
And the sun being the center of our supposed universe.
Our solar system, it is sun, solar.
Yep. So step outside, do a little chanting, and see how you feel afterwards. Just see if you even feel more vital, more alive, more powerful, or empowered. Yeah, if you don't get anything else from this episode, you're like, what the hell are these women talking about? Just chant yourself some rock.
If you weren't entertained by this, I'm sorry. I mean, this is some good shit. Rah, rah shit.
Yes. So we love you all.
Thank you. Thank you.